you know that every word you speak matters? Are your conversations making a difference? With a passion for words and a heart for conversation, Teresa Velardi is a self-professed word nerd, best-selling author, BizCat 360 columnist, and publisher. Children's books as well as fiction and nonfiction books are welcomed at WeBe Books Publishing and Book Endeavors, the imprints of her company, Authentic Endeavors Publishing. Whether written or spoken, Teresa strives to encourage and inspire meaningful conversations that make a difference. Here's the host of Conversations That Make a Difference, Teresa Velardi.
Hey everyone, welcome to Conversations That Make a Difference. I'm excited to have Tammy Hader with me today, and we'll get to her in just a moment. First, I want to welcome all of you to our show that airs every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. with live call-in video shows every first and third Tuesday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern. You can listen to syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network online, mobile, in your car, the YouTube, and by asking Alexa to play Dream Vision 7 radio network. Get your apps. And to learn more for the full schedule, go to dreamvision7radio.com. And as everyone knows who's been coming to my show for the last couple of years, I can't believe I've been doing this a couple of years already. We start with a prayer. So we're going to start with the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And today we are grateful to be fabulous, blessed, and highly favored while living in our greatness, using our God-given gifts and talents with passion and purpose, making a difference in the lives of others, and all of God's great universe is conspiring in our favor. And it is with great gratitude we all say, Amen. Amen. So let me introduce my guest, Ms. Tammy Hader, author of Walking Old Roads. And Tammy has a BA in accounting from Wichita University. Her history resides in numbers. And after 30 years of accounting, Tammy reinvented herself as a writer in 2018. She's an essay writer at Medium, BizCatalyst 360, and WebMD. Tammy's an editor for the Medium publication Journal of Journeys and a contributing author to the Daily Gift book series. She was in Daily Gift of Gratitude and will appear again in the Daily Gift of Hope. So we're looking forward to that. And when she's not writing, she enjoys caring for her mom, cooking for her family, and serving her 2 rescue kitties with the royal attention that they deserve. How do I know that that's so true? Several years ago, when WebMD started a patient perspective program, they found Tammy's migraine-related personal essays on medium.com. She now writes 2 articles a month for WebMD, where her big message is migraine management. I don't know about you, but I have never suffered from migraines, thank you, Lord. But I have people in my life, very close people in my life, who have suffered terribly from migraines. So this conversation is really going to be helpful to a lot of people, and I'm grateful that you're here, Tammy. Tammy emphasizes developing a knowledge base of migraine illness and learning everything you can about your own version of that illness. And it is with great gratitude that I welcome you, Miss Tammy Hader.
Well, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
You're so welcome. So, first of all, can you, for the people who don't know what migraines are, can you just define that? And I understand that there are certain phases that happen when you get a migraine. Can we talk about what people either are experiencing or what people can watch for?
Okay, sure. Migraine is often misunderstood. People think of it as just a headache, but it's actually a recurrent episodic neurological disorder. It is biological in nature, not psychological. It's often a genetic condition that's passed down through families. And experts believe that migraine is linked to the abnormal activation of a nerve which affects sensations that are felt in the head and neck. And a reaction in blood vessels and receptors in the brain is triggered. And it's believed that hormonal changes might be the reason why migraines are more prevalent in women than men. And as you mentioned, there are 4 stages to a migraine episode. And headache is not until the 3rd stage. So the stages are not always as straightforward in real life as they are in textbooks, of course, and they don't necessarily play out exactly the same for all the sufferers. But the stages are called prodrome, aura, attack, and postdrome. So the prodrome occurs hours or sometimes even days before the headache stage comes into play. And that includes things like light, sound, and smell sensitivity, fatigue, changes in appetite, mood changes. And for me, it usually happens about an hour before the headache phase. And I get sensitive to just the regular lights in the house. And the TV sounds a little louder to me than usual, but it's set at the same volume as always. And some say that I get a little cranky too.
Some.
Husband.
Okay.
And then the second phase is the aura phase, and not everybody who suffers from migraines gets that phase. And it typically lasts an hour or less. And it involves nervous system symptoms. So things like visual anomalies, the little floaty things that people get in their vision, blurring of speech, ringing of ears. Some people have hallucination type visual anomalies. And for me, I always have ringing in the ears, but it gets louder during that phase. And I do the slurring of speech thing, which can be very embarrassing if you're, speaking on a podcast, for instance. So I
wondering what you had before you came on air, right?
Right. And I usually get more active floaties. So I have them all the time. They just move around a lot more. Very seldom do I get hallucinations, but I have had a couple. And for me, they don't happen in the aura phase, though. They happen in the attack phase. So that's something that's different about mine. So in the attack phase, that's when the headache, the nausea, and the vomiting occur. And the duration can be anywhere from 4 hours to 3 or more days. And I have thankfully never had one that's lasted for days, but I know people who have, and my heart goes out to them. I mean, for me, it's usually a few hours, one day at the most. And yeah, I get the headache, the nausea, and if it's bad enough, I get the vomiting. And the hallucinations for me has happened twice, where in high school, I was following along in a textbook, and when I moved my eyes moved from the left page to the right page, all the words on the left page disappeared. They just were gone. The page was there. I could still see the book, but there were no words on the page, which totally freaked me out. And I didn't tell my mom about it until about 10 years ago.
Wow.
I probably should have told somebody, but I didn't when I was a kid. It just freaked me out. And then the next time it happened, I was in my late 20s and I was driving, and the car next to me disappeared.
Oh my goodness. So now you said when you were a kid, how old were you when this actually began?
Oh, I was a toddler when it began, but we didn't know what it was. And it didn't happen very frequently. It would just be once or twice a year, maybe back then.
But as you became older, and now you were going to say something about in your 20s, had they gotten worse at that particular time of your life?
Yeah, they kind of followed along with my hormonal schedule. So as I hit puberty, they increased. And And then right during menopause, they increased, but then after menopause, they decreased.
Okay.
So mine kind of followed that along. And then we have one more phase to talk about, and that was the postdrome. So that's when it's all over.
Mhm.
And you can get this weird feeling of euphoria, which is nice because you just feel relaxed when it's over.
Okay.
But then you also can get very fatigued and feel weakness and changes in appetite, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I do that. I get really tired and kind of sluggish for just a few hours
Mhm.
at the end. And I
So-
get that feeling of euphoria.
So you said that a lot of people experience these sometimes for hours, sometimes for days.
Mhm.
And what's been your experience? What's the longest period of time that you've gone from the first phase to the final phase?
Really, just about 8-10 hours has been the longest for me.
Mhm.
So I've been lucky. I have what's called episodic migraines, not chronic migraines, which
What's the
means that
difference? Yeah.
episodic migraines are 1 to 14 episodes a month. Chronic migraines is 15 or more migraines a month. So, the people who have them for 3 or more days, lasting in duration for 3 or 4 days, those are the ones that are more chronic migraine sufferers.
Mhm.
And man, I don't know how they do it. Those are some really, really strong people.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who suffers terribly every time. And ironically, it's a man who gets terrible migraines, and they last for days on end. I also have somebody else in my life, a woman who gets, when she gets them, they could last for days on end. And really, a lot of people say that I know my sister gets migraines too. And when they happen, they have to go in a dark room, no lights, no sound, just give me the pillow, let me put it over my head, and good night, Irene. If you have the ability to go to sleep during one of those, which I don't see how that would be possible, but
Somehow it can happen though. You can go to sleep. That used to be my only way of getting rid of them, was to just go in a quiet dark room and sleep it off.
So
and
when
just kind
did
of
you
reset.
Yeah. When did you finally get diagnosed that you were experiencing migraines? And what are the steps you had to go through in order to find some relief from it, except for allowing the process to happen?
Well, I mean, when I was growing up, I started having these when I was just a toddler, and we called them Tammy's headaches. And so, of course, my parents took me to the doctor, but the doctor said, "Oh, she's probably just allergic to something."
Hmm.
So my mom tried and tried to figure out what it was I was allergic to, but of course she never could, because that wasn't what the problem was. But in the process, she figured out that if I didn't eat at a certain time, like if I ate lunch really late, which often happened during family gatherings, then I would get sick. So she figured out that whatever this was, it was related to changes in eating patterns. So she always made sure that I had food during my windows of opportunity. And that was a big help in keeping the frequency down when I was a child. And so we really just didn't talk to a doctor about it again. They took me to the doctor and that was what they said. And so we just kind of lived with it after that. And the only recourse I had for an episode was to lay down in a dark, quiet room and sleep it off. And that's how it was. And then when I graduated from college and I started working in my first accounting job, they paired me up with this paraprofessional that kind of was showing me the ropes. And I confessed to her that at some point I was going to have this headache happen and it was going to interfere with my work, is what I was afraid was going to happen. And she just immediately popped up and she said, "Oh, you have migraines." And so now I had this name for this thing that was happening to me. So I went to the doctor again, armed with that information. And he said, "Well, come back when you're having an episode and we'll give you a shot." Because that was the only medicine they had then, was a triptan injection. So I did that. I went in when I was having an episode and they gave me the shot, told me to lay there so they could watch me. And in 12 minutes, it was all gone. They said it's probably going to feel a little more, you're going to have a more intense pain for just a little while. And then that's right before it all goes away. And that is exactly what happened. And it was 12 minutes. And I still have those injections that I give myself when the headache has progressed really far. And it is always 12 minutes.
Interesting.
Isn't that weird? It's never 10, never 13. It is 12 minutes.
So
and the whole thing is gone.
And this being a biological situation, what exactly, well, I get like, okay, so like, tell me how this works. Like this, they give you this injection, and what did you say? It was an injection of what?
It's called a triptan. It's a sumatriptan succinate or something like that.
Something like that.
Injection. It was called Imitrex, and that was the only thing that there was at first. And then eventually they developed that same medicine in a pill version. So man, I got on those really quickly because that's so much nicer than sticking a needle in your leg.
Yeah.
But they were very expensive until generics became available. And then that made them a lot less expensive and a lot easier to medicate yourself, because when something's expensive, you wait, it's like, am I getting a migraine or is it a sinus pain? I'm going to wait and see. And by the time you wait, then more and more symptoms show up. So when the medicine became more affordable, I was able to treat myself quicker. And that allowed me not to miss so much time.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. When it gets progressed far enough, you just put your life on a shelf. And you miss out on so many things that you can never get back.
No, I can't even imagine going through this. I'm not, I rarely, thank you God, I rarely get headaches. And I know that when I do, mine are stress induced, and I tend to clench my jaw. So I know that if I'm clenching my jaw and I have pain in my head, that the two of them are related. And if I just would relax my jaw, eventually it's going to go away. And I don't really have to take any kind of medication for that, just to let go of the stressor that's causing the problem. These are not, you said they're not psychological. These are definitely biological. So my situation wouldn't qualify as being labeled a migraine circumstance. But how do you know? You call them triggers. Does everybody have the same kind of triggers, or is that unique to each person who suffers with migraines? And what are they?
Well, the triggers, which, when I first got these, I didn't have the internet to look things up. So I relied on what my doctor told me. And then I went to this, it was called the Lunch and Learn Migraine Lecture that the KU School of Medicine in Wichita was having. And I left there with all kinds of documentation, including this multi-page list of potential triggers. And so there's no test. It's not like you can get an allergy test to see what you're allergic to. There's no test for it. It's pretty much just a trial and error type of thing.
Yeah.
And so you have this multi-page list of possible triggers, but that doesn't mean everything in there is going to be a trigger for you. So each person who suffers from migraines can have different triggers. And so one tool that a lot of people use to determine their triggers is journaling. So if you have an episode, then you write down what you ate that day and what the weather conditions were like. What did you experience that day? What types of lighting were you in? What sounds did you hear? What smells did you smell? And eventually you figure out a pattern. That whenever this happens, I get a migraine episode.
Yeah.
And I used that handout a lot to say, okay, well, what in my list of things here is on that list of potential migraine triggers? And that was very helpful, particularly when it comes to foods. I think, what did I eat that was different? What did I experience that was different? And I got to where I didn't have to really write it down. I mean, I'm a very routine-oriented person anyway, so it was pretty easy for me to remember what was different about my day. And so I was able to just narrow it down to certain foods, glaring lights, certain smells, like cigarette smoke is horrible. Strong perfumes. I mean, I can't use scented oils. Some people use scented oils to help them with their migraines, but that is a trigger for me for sure.
Yeah. So each person has something different.
Right. And that's an example right there of something that some people can use as a treatment and other people are triggered by it. So it is a very strange illness.
So, and so from what first of all, everybody's different. Every body, physical body is different. We all react differently to various stimuli, foods, so forth and so on. And so with that being said, it's probably really challenging for someone to get onto so you had good luck with the Imitrex. That helps you, right? Yes. And there are other things that we're going to talk about when we get back from the break that maybe you can give some other things that people have used that help to reduce either the intensity or the length of the episode that they're having when they get a migraine. Migraines are out there. Every shape, color, form, whatever you want to call it. And I feel for everyone who has them. And I'm really grateful that you're here and we're having this conversation because I know it's going to help a lot of people. And we'll be right back to talk more about how to manage your migraines.
With the hustle and bustle of today's world, how often do you take time to practice gratitude? More importantly, how can you make it a habit? The Grateful Hearts community is a group of like-minded people focusing on what's going right and being grateful. Gratitude is more than putting a smile on your face and being thankful for the roof over your head. It's about expanding your perception and finding ways to find gratitude for, in, and through the challenges we face every day. Gratitude is a feeling of connection to things higher than yourself, to God, and to others. We focus on light, positivity, and connections. You make a difference. When we join our grateful hearts together, the power of community attracts more people and even more to be grateful for. Expressing gratitude and feeling grateful is infectious, so let's share it. Join our Grateful Hearts community and watch your blessings blossom. Learn more at gratefulheartscommunity.com and join the community at facebook.com/The Grateful Hearts Community.
Are miracles real? Can you move from mayhem to miracles? 30 prominent authors say yes as they share their high fives and down lows of challenges, abuse, addiction, and love. Experience hope, the magic elixir of miracles, through the personal stories of New York Times bestselling authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, Sister Jenna, Reverend Temple Hayes, and many more. If you like bestsellers, chaos to clarity, and crappy to happy, you'll love crying and laughing through mayhem to miracles. Sacred stories of transformational hope. Available now on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? What you say and how you say it can make or break a relationship or shift the outcome of any situation. Are your conversations making a difference? Faith in God, gratitude, authenticity, and giving are Teresa Velardi's heart. It's in this spirit that she's focused on making a difference in the lives she's blessed to touch. Conversations That Make a Difference is now on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Welcome back. And we're here with Tammy Hader, and we're discussing migraine management. So before we went to the break, we were talking about the fact that various medications and or homeopathic treatments or whatever, everybody's journey is different. And not everybody is going to get the relief that you got from the shot and then ultimately the medication that you take. I have a question. Do the pills still work in 12 minutes or is that just the injection?
No, the pills take about an hour and 15 minutes. and they don't work at all if the migraine is too progressed.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
So, so let's talk about how from the time that you discovered that you had migraines and what was available back then, what has been, for lack of a better words, what's been the evolution of treatment for people who have migraines?
There has been an evolution. I mean, like I said, it started out with the injection and then that turned into also a pill. And then after a certain amount of time, generics were allowed in the market. Mm-hmm. And so there are several different triptan manufacturers.
Okay.
So the one that I use is a generic version of Maxalt right now. And there was a nasal spray out, which I tried once. I did not like that at all. I could taste it going down the back of my mouth. It was awful. So I only used that once, didn't like it. I'd rather stick a needle in my leg, quite honestly. And then there are some new medicines out there that target the receptors in the brain instead of involving constriction of blood vessels like the triptan drugs do. So they attack the migraine episode from a different direction. And those are drugs like, you've probably heard advertisements for them, like Nurtec and Ubrelvy.
Mm-hmm.
And there are also neurostimulation devices out there that are things that deliver electrical impulses to stimulate the brain. Those kind of things are available. I've not tried any of those really because the triptans just work for me. So I've not seen any.
I'm sorry, what does the triptan do? What does it physically do to the body in order to be able to stop the progression? I'm such a science freak.
Well, it constricts the blood vessels. So when you're having the episode, receptors in your brain are triggered by the stimulation, that what you've seen, smelled, tasted, weather conditions, that kind of thing. And it misinterprets what that signal is. And it's telling your brain to do certain things like purge your body of serotonin, and it dilates your blood vessels. And those reactions cause pain and nausea and the sensitivity.
Right.
So the triptan drugs affect the blood vessels. And when I give myself a shot, I have to lay down immediately because I feel this flushed feeling that goes from my leg where I inject it and up through my body. And I'm told that if I'm sitting up, I get real red. So I have to lay down. And if I'm sitting up, it just causes this constriction in my lungs. So it makes it harder to breathe. But if I lie down, then the side effects are minimal.
Got it. Yeah.
So that's my understanding of what's happening, although I am not in the medical profession. So I apologize if I have said anything not quite correctly.
No, well, and there's, that makes sense to me. And it makes sense to me that if you're sitting up, that the medication can't get directly to where it needs to go with your, to your head. And that it makes sense to me that your lungs might be affected with constricted vessels, so it makes sense. But you've done a lot of research on this, and you do write for WebMD. What would you say? I have a comment that's been made in the chat on YouTube. Someone says home remedies for migraines include scalp massage, sleep, exercise, hydration, dimming the lights, essential oils, some of the things that you're sensitive to, right? And my sister, when she takes magnesium, she gets relief from the migraines. She thinks that the migraines for her are triggered by low magnesium levels. But what's
That's possible. That is very possible. I have heard that before.
Yeah.
And I've tried herbal supplements. I've tried yoga and meditation, scented oils, and just none of those things had any effect on me whatsoever. And some people, might think that I need to keep an open mind or be more positive, but I really don't think that's it. I think that, we're all just different, and maybe my body chemistry just doesn't react in the same way as somebody else's does. And I haven't pursued a lot of the other home remedies. There are things like ice hats you can wear.
I've heard about those.
Specific kind of eye masks that you can wear, and those kind of things. And I've not really pursued any of that because honestly, the tryptin medicines work so well for me that I don't have to. And I've gotten to where I can tell really early in the migraine when it's happening, really quickly. And the quicker you can take that tryptin pill, the more likely it's going to get rid of it in an hour and 15 minutes. And it's never going to get to that really progressed version of a migraine that keeps me from functioning. So that method has worked so well for me that I really haven't seen the need to pursue any of the other types of remedies. But some of the other writers on WebMD have used them quite effectively in at least relieving some of the pain enough that you can still function and while it's running its course. And even that is helpful.
Another friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, there are certain foods that she cannot have in her body because it will trigger the migraines. I feel sorry for her because one of them is chocolate.
Oh, yeah. Here's the thing about chocolate. And this is one of the misconceptions. People think that I had this one relative of mine that said, well, he saw me eating a piece of chocolate cake. And he said, well, I know this person I work with can't eat chocolate or it triggers a migraine. So maybe what you have isn't migraines. And so I swallowed my cake and the inclination to just reach out and slap him because we don't all have the same triggers. Exactly. And even though chocolate is a trigger for a lot of people, it is, thank God, not a trigger for me. So I could eat chocolate every day and not have a migraine from it.
Yeah.
But other people, it does trigger it. You just never know.
I wonder with the rise of products that are being talking about various ways to manage I wonder if there's any studies that have been done to see whether or not that might help with migraines. You know, they talk about that we have a system in our body called a cannabinoid system, and that CBD oils could potentially be the answer to many things that we suffer with. I don't know. But I was listening to someone one day who was talking about migraines and menopause, which is where I would like to go right, now. But she said that she managed a lot of the pain that of the migraines that had been different before menopause and are now different after menopause, but she did manage them with CBD products. What's your opinion on that, or what have you learned through the research that you do, and maybe other people who are writing for WebMD in that category? And then talk about how migraines differ, before, during, and after menopause.
Now, I actually have tried CBD products, and again, I had no relief whatsoever. It made no impact at all. It didn't impact my menopause symptoms. It didn't help with migraines. I mean, I could tell nothing from it. But I know I'm part of a migraine group on Facebook. And so there are a lot of people out there that use things like that. They use CBD, they use magnesium, they use lavender or peppermint scented oil, and they get some relief from it. So, who am I to say if that is just because they want it to, or if it really works for them? I haven't seen any definitive studies either way. So my best advice is, if it works, do it. If it works for you, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I am so happy for you.
Yeah.
But those kind of things just didn't work for me. And I had said earlier that my migraine frequency kind of mimicked the whole hormonal change throughout life. So when puberty started, the frequency increased. When I got older, I got married, and I started using birth control pills. They increased, and I went to my doctor about it, and he said that was a potential side effect of birth control pills. They could increase the frequency. So it's like, well, I'm not using those anymore.
Yeah.
And then when I got up to going through menopause, the frequency of the migraines increased again. Oh, wait, hang on. Let me go back a minute. So in my 20s, when the frequency increased, I talked to my doctor about it, and he put me on something called propranolol, which is a preventative that helps with the hormonal changes. I think it's actually a low dose of blood pressure medicine is what it is. But it was a very low dose, and that helped a lot with the menstrual migraines that I would have. So I wouldn't have them every month then. So that was very helpful. And then when I got into menopause, it's like they stopped helping me, and the frequency went up until I got through menopause. And once I got through menopause, then the frequency of the migraines dropped quite a bit, and I stopped taking the propranolol altogether. And I've been able to just manage it with avoiding triggers and using my triptan abortives.
Someone says that sometimes eating 15 minutes earlier than scheduled helps to manage. And you said something about, like, when your food schedule was off, your mom noticed that when your food schedule was off, the migraines would come on board. So yeah, so anybody who's commenting is really like affirming the information that you're giving us. So I know, and so since I don't have any experience in this myself, it's hard for me to ask you a question like, what happens if, so we'll get to some of that in a minute, but we're going to have to go take our second break. I can't believe we're 2/3 of the way through this already. We'll be back after this break with Tammy Hader, and we're talking more about managing migraines. We'll be right back. I think.
In order to be healthy and happy, there are 24 areas of your life to balance. With the All Things Wellness Wheel, you become self-empowered, allowing you to make healthier decisions about relationships, nutrition, sleep, exercise, stress, and even your value system. The All Things Wellness book series, written by Peggy Wilms and Dr. Marcus Wettstein, teaches you how to balance your wellness wheel in addition to sharing true stories from multiple contributing authors. Book 1, The Fourfold Formula, and Book 2, Win the Wellness War, We Are Responsible, are now available on Amazon. Reserve your spot now to become a published author in Book 3, Wellness GPS, Get Prepared for Success. Visit www.allthingswellness.com/authors for more information.
Why are we here? How can we be happy? Questions asked from millennials to boomers. Crappy to happy. Sacred stories of transformational joy answers them using true stories of grit, grace, and love. James Redfield, author of The Celestine Prophecy, wrote in the foreword, "The book is a seminar about emerging truths and offers grounded solutions through the art of the comeback." Dr. Bernie Siegel, a contributing author, wrote, "Bodies die, but spirits and consciousness survive and recycle." So grab some tissues, open your book, and prepare to cry and laugh till it heals. Crappy to Happy by Reverend Ariel Patricia and Kathleen O'Keefe Cannabis. Available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and booksellers worldwide.
Do you have a personal story of hope or kindness to share? The Daily Gift book series, which began with a daily gift of gratitude, now available on Amazon, continues with a daily gift of hope and a daily gift of kindness. And we're looking for people just like you to share a story. Your daily gift of hope story might answer one of these questions. Is there a time when you felt hopeless and someone stepped in to change your view? Have you been an example of hope for someone else? Is hope something that you've always had? If so, how do you keep that hope alive? With hope, we have more energy and a purpose. It gets us out of bed in the morning. Daily Gift of Kindness might be your chance to talk about recognizing and spreading kindness to change the world. Practicing kindness lifts your spirit and your mood, warms your heart, and helps to navigate your way through today's challenges. Has an act of kindness from a stranger turned your day around? Have you ever paid it forward to someone or for someone? Your story matters, so visit dailygiftbookseries.com to find out more about how to submit your story for a daily gift of hope and a daily gift of kindness. Your stories make a difference.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we're back. I just want to say a little bit about the Daily Gift book series. Daily Gift of Gratitude was the first one. Daily Gift of Hope, we're collecting the stories for now. That and the Daily Gift of Kindness. And I think we have a Daily Gift of Friendship too is coming up as well. This is a series that just breathes positive words from all over the world, from people who have experienced shifts in their life using any one of these particular topics, or practices. A gratitude practice. In the beginning of the show, we talked about having a gratitude practice in a community and how important community is. And we're going to talk about that in a second in relation to migraines. But I also want to go to Tammy's book, because her book, the subtitle of her book is A Memoir of Kindness Rediscovered. So, where in your life can you rediscover kindness? With the world as crazy as it is right now, I think we need these things. That's why these books are being put together. Gratitude, When you have a grateful heart, everything is important to you. When you have when you have a hopeful heart, you're a magnet for people, and they want to know, why are you so hopeful? Why not? Why not? And then kindness sometimes is things that we have to practice. But I have some stories where, I've been on the receiving end of kindness and it's changed my day, and I've been on the giving end of kindness and have changed someone else's day. And it's a really great feeling. Whether you're giving or receiving, it's a really great feeling. So check out the dailygiftbookseries.com, see how you can submit a story, and let your voice be heard in one of these books. So that being said, what I wanted to ask you also, when you were talking about when you got your job as an accountant, and you talked about the fact that you had these headaches, these migraines that you were suffering with, and it might affect your work schedule. What is it thankfully you found something that works in 12 minutes, and you don't have to be losing a lot of time from work. But I'm sure that knowledge over the years has expanded, and having people like you who are migraine sufferers speaking to the medical community on what other people are experiencing really helps with treatment plans and so forth. But how can somebody who's listening to this today and is maybe going to get a new job, or maybe is being put in situations where they're concerned about the possibility of having one of these migraines interrupt their day and the effects it might have on their career, relationships, and whatever? What advice can you give them?
Well, and early on for me, there weren't very many employers who were terribly educated in migraine disease. So it was really difficult. They would compare me to other employees. Walter gets a headache and all he has to do is take an aspirin and he keeps working. And I was also told once by a supervisor that sick leave is a privilege that can be removed for everyone if I abuse it. Because, you go home sick one day and you come in the next morning fine. And so they think you're making it up. And that's why I drove home and had the car beside me disappear, is because I couldn't leave work to go home and take care of myself. I had to stay there.
Oh my goodness.
And the episode progressed so far that I had these visual anomalies, and it was very unsafe. And I had the injections, but I had to lay down in order to use them, and there was no place at work where I could really do that. Mm-hmm. So over the years, that has changed a lot. And not only has the workplace environment changed, but I changed as well. So I began to openly discuss the illness with my bosses, my coworkers, whether they wanted to hear it or not. Mm-hmm. And I stopped apologizing for my illness, and I started educating the people around me about the disease and about what it meant for me and what it would mean in the workplace. So let them know that I'm doing everything I can to be a good employee and to be here for you, but this is going to happen. And there's a lot more information now about it on social media. You see advertisements for pharmaceuticals about migraines. So there's just a lot more information out there. And at some point, migraine disease became covered by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Mm. So that's an important thing for people to remember, that they do have that. They are armed with something to help them navigate through the workplace. Mm. And eventually, like I said, I stopped apologizing for it. I started communicating with people about it. And instead of letting somebody make me think that I was weak and abusing sick leave, I took that opportunity to teach them about migraine illness and how it probably affects a lot of their employees. And I ended up working for an employer who acknowledged my disease.
Yeah.
So they didn't attach it to my skill set or my integrity. They worked with me on it. And anybody out there who's suffering from migraines, that's exactly what you deserve.
Mhm.
And you
So,
just stand up for yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's now recognized as an illness. It's not just a headache. It
Right.
is an illness. It's something that needs to be cared for just like any other illness. And and you have to have people around you who understand that and who know when you've been triggered or when there's been a situation, a symptom that they may see that you just are not aware of, that is visible to somebody else, so you say what it means to have a migraine team. Now I want to say this in relation to this because of the fact that a couple of days ago I was with a group of people, and one of the women that I was talking to is diabetic, and I had a childhood friend who had type 1 diabetes, and she was, of course, she had to carry Tootsie Rolls and insulin and all these other things with her. And her mom was a nurse. And I remember that anytime we went out together, when her mom was not there, I was given like I don't want to say a lecture, but I was given information that if you see this happen, that means that she's on her way down, her blood sugar's on her way down, and she needs to have some sugar, so forth. And she gave me all the details. And I'm thinking that for someone who suffers with migraines, that having people who can spot symptoms that are coming on would be really helpful. What do you say about that?
Well, that is very important. My husband does that for me a lot. Like if I say, "Does the television seem loud to you?" He'll say, "No, it doesn't. Are you getting a migraine? Do I need to turn it down? Do I need to turn the lights down? Do I need to close the drapes? Do you need to go lie down for a little while?" And he's very supportive of that. He doesn't blame me for it. And if that means that we have to leave a party early, or we can't go to an outdoor concert because there might be cigarette smoke, he's very supportive of that. And he doesn't resent me for what we don't get to do, because he understands that it's not something that I have ultimate control over. I have control over some triggers, but not all of them.
Yeah.
And it's the migraine team is really important. And you don't always think about that with migraine, because one of the best things for it is to be alone in a quiet, dark room, isolated from everybody else. So it seems more like a solitary illness, but it affects the lives of family and friends and coworkers. And so it's important for them to understand what's happening. They play an important role, and they need to understand that it's not your fault if you need to protect yourself from a trigger or you have to cancel plans. And when those people have empathy for you on the other side of that door, of that dark, quiet room, that means so much more than anybody can know. It's very comforting. And just having people around to advocate for you, to help you avoid triggers. Like if we're walking down a street and my husband sees somebody ahead of us who's smoking, we might cross the street to get away from it. And maybe I didn't see them, but he did. So he steers me away from it. Or like, this is a weird one. Flashing lights is a trigger for me. So in the winter here, trees shed their leaves. So you have these bare trees and the light shining through them. So if you're driving down certain streets, it creates a flashing light. So he will drive down a different street so that I don't have to be exposed to that. And that kind of advocate, it's very uplifting. It makes you feel so much less alone. And another form of a team is the migraine group that I have on social media. I mean, I don't participate that much, but it's just so nice to know that there are other people out there who understand completely what you're going through.
Yeah, those
So,
groups
I mean,
are very helpful for a variety of different things, you know.
it is.
So many people.
And in fact, I posted once about how one of my cats will lay down beside me sometimes when I'm having an episode. And it's the mean cat, right? So, yeah. So it's like he can sense it. And so a lot of people started posting their stories on my comment. And somebody actually said that she rented an apartment and her cat did that for her. So she got a doctor to say that this animal helped her with her migraines, and she didn't have to pay the extra rent for having a pet because of that.
Yeah.
So, and I never knew that was a thing. And so that's something you can learn. You can learn about different things when you're in a social media group like that. It's like a support group. It's why support groups work.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a support group online that you don't have to pay for.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right? So yeah, but you know, emotional support animals and that sort of thing. That's it's a real thing. People think, oh, you can get by with it. You know, sometimes when I know somebody who has an emotional support animal who suffers from anxiety and can get to the point where they've got to just like shut down everything and just, you know, whatever. And the animal senses that it's coming on beforehand and can take the person away from whatever it is that's starting to trigger this emotional situation. Animals are very, very intuitive. They're very intuitive.
Are.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, interesting. Well, this has been, so let me ask you, where can people go if they want to read one of your articles on WebMD? Is there a particular section where they can go? Maybe you can give us some direction on how to read some of what you've written and other people who are talking about this. I know there's more than one, so.
Right. So if you just go to webmd.com, and I have it open over here to the side, so I'm going to look at it and show you. So you hover over the word more, and it brings up this drop-down list. And under that is blogs. You click on blogs, and then you scroll down, and there's a list of different topics because they do this for all sorts of illnesses.
Interesting.
And you click on migraine, and that takes you to all of us who are writing about migraines.
Awesome.
And I also post mine on my own website, which is tammyhader.com.
And now you also write for Biz Catalyst 360. Do you have any articles on there about migraines?
You know, I don't think I have put any on there about migraines.
Okay.
I probably should.
Write good stuff anyway. So I would sponsor on bizcatalyst360.com and WebMD, as Tammy just told us. Make sure that you check her out on Facebook or LinkedIn or anywhere where she is on social media. And be sure, absolutely be sure to read her book. Get her book. It's available on Amazon.com. And she's an excellent writer. I had the privilege of publishing this, and I just love it. I can't wait for the next one. So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to talk to us about this topic that is sometimes brushed aside, and people are made to feel like, oh, what's wrong with me? You know what? And you can't control what happens. And this makes it a little bit more, this information makes it easier for people to get through their situations. Thank you again, Tammy. And for all of you who are listening, make sure that conversations that you're having in your life are making a difference.
Tune in next time for Conversations That Make a Difference with host Teresa Velardi every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. Thank you for listening. And thank you to our producer, Rachel, and to our station owner, Deborah Beauvais, working behind the scenes. Be sure to go to conversationsthatmakeadifference.com for your free gift. Make sure your conversations make a difference.